It is November 1st, and that means that it's my birthday. And I'm such a birthday nerd. Like, I get so excited about my birthday. And the baristas at my local coffee place made me a birthday coffee complete with sprinkles, and there was whipped cream and sprinkles and little lollipops in it and stuff. And but yeah, so I wanted to do this video just because one, it's my birthday, and if everyone could tell me happy birthday, I would love that because I love my birthday. And then also just to provide general updates on the farm. I know I haven't been making as many videos, and I will taper down as we go into the winter because there isn't as much content. Most of my content involves gardening, and of course there isn't a whole bunch to do. But on that topic, my next video will be on planting garlic. I think most people in the Pacific Northwest, or not most, I should say, a lot of people I talk to plant around mid-October. And if you followed me for a while, you know that I was told to plant around, this was years ago, around Thanksgiving. And historically, I've always planted late November, early December. And I found that my garlic grows just as big, if not larger. And so I've just kept with that, even though like even other farms and everything still plant garlic in mid-October. And I don't think there's anything wrong with planting in mid-October. But I don't know what this winter's gonna bring. And I know that with garlic, even though it's cold hardy, like in really, really cold areas, you want it to get where it gets a little bit of growth, but isn't like fully grown to go into the winter. And so I thought about moving up my garlic planting date from late November, early December to like late October or something. But I haven't done that. And I think if our winters are going to be trending colder, I don't think I'm going to do that. So my next video will be on garlic planting. If you already planted your garlic, no problem at all. If you thought you were late on garlic, I promise you, you're okay. You can still plant garlic, especially if you're in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know what the weather is in other places or whatever. But yeah, and so, so after that though, there's not a whole lot to do in the garden, like general cleaning up. And for me, I go through the beds and I will seed some spinach in the greenhouse, but it's really hard to get everything in the ground, or like to do a lot of stuff because things just don't grow. We have so few daylight hours. I think it gets dark at like 6 p.m. now or 6:30, something like that. It's crazy. And then also towards the end of the year, another reason why I haven't had as many videos is that there's a little bit of a burnout, like in a healthy way though, that happens like after the whole year of just going. I very much liken myself to, I work like with the sun. And so when the sun comes up early and goes down late, I'm doing stuff the whole time as well. And then, so I look forward to when the daylight isn't so long and I can get to bed earlier. And so, all summer in the heat, especially this year, we had so many just hot days. I understand we didn't set a single temperature record, but we we set records for so many days where it was really just an extended period of time where it was really hot, and it's miserable to be out there watering, and the plants were suffering. The heat loving crops loved it, of course, but it is what it is. And so, after going through all that and looking forward to the season changing, and now we roll into, Halloween's big for me because obviously my birthday the day after, and then Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it's like, oh, there's so many like things going on and all the stuff that I thought I would accomplish during the summer. Because during the winter, I'm like, oh, I'll do this in the summer when the weather's nice. It's miserable to do it right now. And then the summer, I'm too busy. And I think I'm also famous for always making a list, my to-do list of things that are more things than I can get done. And so then there's like this big rush to try and get everything done before the rains come in. One example of that was my farm stand. I just actually 2 nights ago, there was a break in rain and I finished painting like the roof area, or board, like, so the way the farm stand is, I made it so that you can take it apart at any time or whatever, because I'm indecisive and I knew that I'd want to move it. And so all four walls were built individually and then are held together by like huge lag bolts. So I can undo those and then move it if I want, because I'm not exactly sure, because it's kind of blocked a little bit by this big apple tree, and I think I might prune down the apple tree, but just in case. And so then the roof is, it's like a base, a rectangular like base area, and then it sets on top, and then I still have to put the metal siding, or not metal siding, corrugated metal on top of it. But the roof will be heavy, and obviously I need a couple people to take that on and off. But I wanted to have all new structures that get built on the farm, I want them to be movable. And so, because I have some structures obviously that I can't move and I'd like to repurpose them, but I don't have that ability. So all I can do is just learn going forward. But the farm stand, there was this big rush to get it done because I anticipated opening the farm stand in June. And as you remember, our spring was just absolutely terrible. It was so cold and rainy, and the slugs were out of control. All the insects, the rabbits were bad this year. And it was just, I was having so many problems. I remember one of my good friends, she has her high tunnels and they were flooded, and she's like, I have to plant tomatoes. Like, I can't plant tomatoes into standing water. And I'm like, oh man, like it was just trouble. um, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, and so there was that big push, and then it kind of got delayed, and then I got busy with the whole season and just growing everything and expanding the garden and all that stuff that was going on. And then I was like, oh, I need to do something with the farm stand, because I do the CSA, and then people will come to just reach out to me about vegetables and stuff like that, and I'll just fresh pick for them. So I had a lot of sales avenues, but I'm really wanting to centralize it with the farm stand, which will free up more time to grow more food for the community. And so then I was like, well, what do I do? This was about mid-July, when I was heavy on tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, eggplants, just everything. And I was like, well, I feel like I would be rushing the farm stand to get it done. And so I didn't know if it was better to just wait a whole nother year, even though I'd have the missed opportunities of the sales, but it would kind of be put together. And I wanted to make a really good first impression. And so I made the decision to go ahead and wait. And so the farm stand's actually going to open up next year. And I'm not sure when, June or July or something like that. And, or maybe spring if I get crazy enough. But, it was just really interesting. Like, and so then even with the farm stand and focusing on it, I severely underestimated the time it would take to paint it. And so it didn't, everything on the farm needs so many things. And the last thing I'm thinking about is painting the farm stand. Side note, I hate painting. So we got the farm stand painted, and then it was just like the white, remember I told you the roof that sits on top? So I just finished that the other night. So then we got to put it up on the stand, or on the farm stand, not just stand, but farm stand, and then get the corrugated metal roofing on it. And so that will get done this year, and then that way I can work on the inside and getting the fridge in there, because I do have the fridge. It's on the side of my house. It's an eyesore, but it's covered up, which makes it look even worse. One of those little ones with the clear doors, so you can get lettuce and spinach and stuff. But it just feels like everything, like, that's why I always say in all my videos, like, if you're gardening, if it's your first year or your 10th year, if you've got just a couple pots or a little plot or a whole farm or whatever, like, just to make sure that you're giving yourself grace, because there's so much like going on in the world, and just in general, like, I'm not getting into all that, but there's so much going on, and so many things demand so much of our time, like, and being a spouse and a parent or a friend or a daughter or a son, or, whatever roles or multiple hats you wear. And, sometimes it's just you don't feel like doing something, or it's too hot or it's too cold, or, something goes wrong or whatever. And so I need to remember that myself, of course. And then also I try and tell that to everyone else, because it's, I think, especially on social media, like I always try and show the embarrassing parts of my garden. And I don't really love showing it. Well, I guess no, I don't mind. But I would definitely prefer that it was all beautiful and pristine. But I don't think that type of garden really happens. And I do also see a lot of pictures on the Facebook or the Instagram or whatever. And, everything looks so beautiful. And I think that people look at that and they're like, oh, I should be able to have the same effect, like, why doesn't my garden look like that, or something like that. And honestly, there's always a million reasons. It could be a great camera angle, could be filters, could be, more time, could be more money, could be more experience, could be, whatever it may be, like, but just give yourself grace. So long drawn out explanation, but yeah, so I'm fine. I know I didn't make or I was like really dropped off there on videos, but it's just been so busy and trying to get everything done. And another thing is that I always tell you guys that, like, I pretty much supply myself with 80% of my food, if not more, year round. And that's really important to me. But as my gardening has grown, gardening, farming, whatever, market gardening, I find that I'm struggling with time to get to canning and dehydrating and trying to balance all those things. But however, I have been really efficient in the past, I don't know, about week or so. I wanted to show you guys some of the things I did. These were pickled, I think these are jalapenos. I'm not sure. I've been eating them, so there's not that many left. I had so many peppers this year. Like, it's my first year with a greenhouse. And I'll tell you what, if you have been dreaming of a greenhouse, 100% you should get it. My greenhouse is really big. And so I know that that's not in the realm for everybody to afford. And honestly, I wouldn't be able to afford it myself either. And if I would have known how much it was going to cost when I started, I don't think I would have it. I guess I'm thankful for the ignorance of not realizing exactly how much, because once I was locked in, I had to. And so also another thing that helped me is I did get a grant, and that was from our local, what is it? Conservation district, and for growing in the ground and growing food locally. And so they pay a certain amount per square foot. It varies every year. When I purchased it, that was when I think I was awarded the grant in like 2020, and then paid out in 2021, in the beginning of 2021, built October of 2021. And so this was my first growing season. But sorry, there's a thing about okay. So, but I also opted, so with that, you have to be like a registered farm, not just like a homestead or smaller garden or whatever. Like, you have to be supplying food to your local community and be registered with, I think it's FSA or something like that. And don't quote me, but I think it was like $5 per square foot for the grant. And but I also opted, because I'm not rich, I opted to take half of the payment up front. And that's where this will come into play with the greenhouse. The whole greenhouse thing was a saga. So the prices kept increasing. So I was awarded the grant, and then I had to build that year, or within a year, but I wanted to build that summer. And I was just so busy. So we ended up, no, actually I was on time. I contacted Stubers. They've since gone out of business, or closed business, I should say. But I contacted them and I got a quote, and it was a little higher than I was thinking, but I was like, okay, we've got the grant. Like, this is important part of the farm. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so I had called them, but they didn't have the tax amount. So I was like, okay, well, I need to know the tax amount, and I'll send you a check as a down payment. And so they didn't get back to me, and I called them again, I think 2 more times, and they had said the prices had increased, and it was like 30%. And I was like, I didn't know what to do because I had taken the half of the grant up front, and like the last thing I want to do is to be in debt to like the United States government, you know. And so I was really worried. And, like I could barely afford it then and, affording it now, And so, but then I was calling them and I was like, look, I've been waiting on the tax number. Like I would have had a check in the mail 1 week and it was only a week, and I was like, I know you've got price increases, like, but like they ended up giving me I didn't like get crazy or anything. I was just like, okay, well, but she ended up calling me back and she gave me the original price that was quoted. And I was very thankful for that. I think the greenhouse is 30 by 50, well, 48. And it came out to, I think it was 10 to 12,000. I think it was more of 12,000. I think the original quote was like 10,000 and some change, and it came to 2,000. And then I think the grant covered 4 or 5,000, something like that. But then I had to get it built. And so remember, I accepted half the money. And then once you accept it, you have 90 days that you have to have it built and inspected. And then I get further inspections because the government helped pay for it. And I've already had one of those and passed. But so I had 90 days or I'm in like major trouble. And I was like, okay, like I've got plenty of time. I sent them the check. And so they're like, oh, things are taking a little bit longer. And I was like, okay, well, as long as, it it can get delivered in time. And so it took longer and longer and longer. Long story short, it was delivered about 24 days before it was supposed to be here. And I was like, what am I going to do? And not only that, I thought it was going to kind of come in like, I don't know, like I thought it would be a little more assembled. Absolutely not. It was like 87, not even 87,000 like pieces of huge heavy steel and like 2 million nuts, 2 million screws, 2 million like fasteners and like things I've never even heard of. And like I learned how to become a builder then, and I learned that I needed an impact drill. And no plans or anything like that. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I asked the delivery guy and I was like, hey, do you have any, like, is there anybody that I can like hire to help me with this or whatever? And he was like, yeah, but they're really booked out. And I was like, well, no, I've got an inspection like at the end of the month, And long story short, he ended up helping me. Of course, I had to pay him. I paid him. It ended up being, I think it was another like 3,000, something like that. I severely underestimated how long it would take to get that built. So all this long drawn out story about the greenhouse, which I did get it inspected and I passed, and I've had my second inspection. They came sometime, oh man, I don't know, August or something like that. I had like 1 day notice, which was fine because I was growing in the ground and doing all that stuff. My growing practices are sustainable and, that was made for growers like me. But I understand that not everybody can go through that whole process. And I have a really huge greenhouse. I could hang like a car from it and stuff like that. Like it's sturdy, well built, yada, yada, yada. But even if you get yourself like tunnels, like even like caterpillar, like the low tunnels, or even of course the high tunnels too. Or if you build something, like if you're just starting, like you can be flexible in how strong your greenhouse is depending on like what season that, like my greenhouse is meant to be up year round and it takes the wind and all that stuff and doesn't even flinch. But if you make like a small PVC, if you use PVC, make sure and wrap it in duct tape or some other thing because it'll corrode the poly film. But even if you make it out of PVC or PEX or something like that, and I don't know about where you're at, but for me, the windy season is really in December, but it spans anywhere from November to like, I don't know, February, March-ish area. But if you have something small that you can pull out or like little like tent things or something, they really make a difference. And that's what I was getting to with my peppers. I feel like I'm going to need to rechange or change the name of this video from like updates to like random talkings about things. But yeah, so all that to say is I had 10 million peppers. It was really amazing. And if you've struggled with peppers, I don't know, it might be the warmer summer, of course, my first year with a greenhouse. But even if you can get something little to make a difference, I really personally have seen, you know, now if you have something smaller, you have to make sure it can vent and stuff like that. My greenhouse does have the roll-up sides, excuse me, it does have the roll-up sides. And but even still, like if the sun comes out, like this was in the spring, if this I see the sun come out and I'm like, oh, I need to go out and open up the greenhouse. By the time I get out there, oh, it would be like 120 or something in like March. I'm not even kidding. Like I was literally texting my neighbor and she's like, what are you gonna do in the summer? Turns out it doesn't work the same way. Like, because I was like, well, is it going to get like 200 degrees in the summer? And it kind of tapers off at some point. So I was really happy about that. But it makes a really big difference. Also, I was able to start things a lot earlier in the spring. And like I had turnips and radish and I forget what, I didn't fully take advantage of getting an early start on a lot of things or as many as I wanted to because I wanted to kind of keep that area open more for the tomatoes, though I still ended up kind of doing that because I underestimated like the timing and spacing. And so if you've seen my garden tour videos, then you know about like the radishes and turnips like grown in, especially the daikons, grown in with the tomatoes. And like the daikons are literally like 5'8" or something. They're like a twin of me. I'm 5'9", but you know, and like, I don't know, just random stuff. But anyways, I wanted to show you this stuff that I made with all the peppers. So this is a half gallon, but it's in my fridge because I didn't even know what to do with it. But basically I had all these lunchbox peppers, which I've never, besides like uber professional growers using like a nitrogen like fertilizer system, I've never, me personally, I've never known anybody, regular average gardener, to be able to grow like the little bell peppers really well. But I have a seed packet I purchased a while ago. And so I'm just finished off my last seeds. And this year was better than my previous years. But in my opinion, they're always just so tiny that it makes them not worth it. Regular large bell peppers are a struggle for everyone as well, just because it doesn't really get hot enough. And you got to have like that fertility to get that big pepper, or at least a ton of them. So I thought that the little baby ones, for the lunchbox ones, whatever. But I found out in my trials that the 3-lobed ones, again, I get from Johnny's, I think it's called Carmen or Lipstick or Combination or something. I think, do I have them? No, I don't see them. Of course, so they've been sitting on my counter and the one time I need them. But basically, instead of being like a 4-lobed, like larger bell pepper, they're a little bit smaller, but they're longer. So you still get like the bell pepper ratio is still there. And those did fabulous. So I'm going to dial in those more next year. I'll do videos and stuff, but informational. But anyway, so I had those little lunchbox peppers and they were real small. Do I have any? This one's kind of a bigger one. We've got like a 5-gallon bucket of peppers, but like this one's a bigger one. Most of them were like, I don't know, like about that size. But I took them all and I roasted them. And what I wanted to do was make a pepper sauce that was like a tomato sauce, but with only peppers. And so that's all this is. This is just roasted peppers and garlic from the garden and then blend it up. And it's fabulous. I've been putting it on. Currently I have, like 100, this is for personal use, 100 spaghetti squashes, like 60 delicata squashes. My butternut squash, it didn't do good at all this year. All my plants were planted at the same exact time, but I haven't even picked them yet. Of course, it's a little too late, but they just didn't reach maturity. I don't know what happened. They didn't do anything. I don't know if you guys grew butternut and had better luck, but all my other stuff did really great, but just not that. I also grow, as everyone who knows me, I love shishito peppers, and they grow really well here, and they're very, very prolific. And so I always recommend people to grow shishito peppers, Shishito, I think. But they're a thin-walled pepper. Well, I have examples. I guess that's the good thing about filming in here. So this is a serrano pepper, and this is a green shishito pepper. As you can see, there's no wrinkle in the skin besides it's shriveling a little bit because I need to process it. But see how here that's really wrinkly? That's just how it is regular. And then this is one that's more ripe or ripening. But you can see they're fine at other stages. But what's nice about dehydrating the shishito peppers is that because they're thin-walled, if you just cut off the top and throw them in the dehydrator, like if you're too busy, I got a thing of that too. I'm the pepper monster. This is what they look like. This is a gallon. It was a pickle thing. But so this is what they look like. And so they'll just dry. If you do that with a jalapeno, their walls are thicker. And so they will dry with time, I guess, but it doesn't turn out as well. And so the shishito peppers, as far as spice on average, they're about the same. They're between like a bell pepper and a jalapeno, more towards bell pepper, but like 1 in 10 is really spicy. So if you're like really sensitive to spice, they're more of a gamble. But I just love, the plants are so prolific. They're really good. They're a roasting pepper, so you can, burn them up, blister them in the pan, or just use them any which way. I also have dehydrated like another one of these things, and I put it into the the blender, and let me put some of these down, and made like a seasoning to put on everything. I think I showed you these. These are dehydrated shishitos. So you'll see that some are red and some are green. And that's because, well, some of them were fully ripe and some of them were mostly ripe. For those of you that don't know, all peppers start off as green, 100% of them. Even the yellow ones, orange, red, purple, green, obviously. And then they turn red or whatever color. And so if you're growing a colored pepper, you can sell them or eat them at the green stage just fine. Either way, so that's why some of them are mixed. I did dehydrate some of the jalapenos, as you can see here, I think. And so those ones I did slice up into smaller things. And then also, I just realized this kind of looks like a ghost. But it's not a Halloween prop. It's actually, wow, I'm so excited for this. So this is fermenting. It is all jalapeno. I don't take out the seeds because 1, I can't be bothered with it, and 2, I don't mind them. But I'm making hot sauce. And so I'm doing it the fermented way, where I put I think I used 24 ounces of jalapenos, I think. And then I put a little bit of water and let it sit for a day. And then I put some vinegar and salt. And then I'm letting it sit for a week. You can notice this little bubble. You can't really tell. I don't think it'll show up on the camera. You see those bubbles there? They're like right in this area. Well, they're everywhere, but I don't know if you can see them or not. And then on top is a cheesecloth that, has like those miniature holes, like a million miniature holes held on with a rubber band. And that's so that fruit flies don't go in there, but it can still trap all the wild yeast floating around the world. I canned carrots. This is all in the last week. I'm so proud of myself. I've been so efficient. I canned my carrots. These ones are bigger for like stew or whatever, but I have been meaning to can carrots for so long, and I've just been so busy. And so that's kind of been a struggle with increasing the garden and then also being able to put it away, I feel like I'm right now, I try and eat seasonally too. So I'm eating like zucchini still, and huge zucchinis too. Let me show you. I'll be right back. Hold on. because I've got them. I think I've given away all of my like exhibition zucchinis because everyone's like, that's so big, and I like feel all cool. But look at this zucchini. Like, that's so big. And so with zucchinis, generally, a lot of people eat them when they're like, I don't know, like 5-6 inches long or whatever. But the thing is, and so they call it the summer squash, but zucchini is a winter squash. We just eat it at an immature stage, which is fine, obviously. Baby everything tastes better, like greens and stuff like that. But if you let it go into this big monster, then it's got like a hard skin or whatever. And so, but it's generally still edible. Every once in a while I get one where I roast it because I just cut the ends off, cut it down the middle, scoop the seeds, and then every once in a while it's the skin's too hard, and so I'll just scoop out the pulp or whatever. But yeah, if you grow zucchini, let some grow out and get big. But trying to think of what else I've been working on in the last week, just battening down the hatches, making sure all like the support or the covers for the chickens are in good working order, and like cleaned out the coop. And as far as the garden, oh, I picked all the popcorn. Let me show you that. Do I have? Oh, I have cucamelons. Thought this was funny. Bunch of little, I don't know if you guys have ever had cucamelons. They're really bitter, or Mexican sour gherkins or whatever. Where did I put my popcorn at? These ones were ones that I had to cut off because the pollination didn't happen all the way. I only had a few that had that problem. Oh, I think I've got them on my drying rack. The rack from Costco with all the metal wires or metal things. In the spring, I use it for seed starting, and then in the fall, I've got potatoes curing on it, garlic curing on it, spaghetti squashes sometimes, but I've got more squash. My entire living room floor is covered in squash. I'm not even kidding. I've got towels down, of course, and then also popcorn. But look how cool the little popcorn is. And so I'm waiting for it to get to the correct dryness, because I think it needs to be, I can't remember if it's 13 or 17%, and I don't have a measurer. And so what I'm gonna do is, or what I am doing, is every week I like pop off like 4 kernels, which is where this comes from, and throw them in the microwave and see if they pop. So far no popping, but it's been a week, so it's almost done. But anyways, so yeah, that's kind of, oh, and I guess the last thing is the apple tree is producing. If you guys saw that video from last spring where I did a heavy pruning on the apple tree, and I was worried because prior to that, it had always put up a lot of apples. They were a little smaller and they were inedible. The flavor was not good. And so I inherited that tree, of course, when I bought the property, and it was like growing into the ground and needed a lot of love. And realistically, I should have taken like 60-70% of the tree off, but you're supposed to only take 30% every year. I think I took 35, potentially 40%, but I tried to like slow down a little bit. And this year, because I was curious how the apples would turn out, and oh, I found those 3 peppers. That's good. Okay. So remember I was telling you about the 3-lobe peppers, and if I didn't have an example, this is them. So I think that for us in the Pacific Northwest, especially like Western Washington, Western Oregon, and Western California, Northwestern California, I don't know. And we struggle with getting the bell peppers big enough, and the little lunchbox ones get too small. And so this is what I mean by 3-lobe, trilobal, whatever, but it's the 3 lobes. And so it's longer. I guess some of the big ones in the store get really huge. But yeah, and remember, I don't use any supplemental fertilizer or anything like that. I use fermented nettle and compost and stuff like that. But isn't that beautiful? So I wanted to share that. And then these are the apples. I have a couple hundred on the tree, so I made applesauce the other day, which was amazing. I didn't do it for canning or anything because that's a huge like commitment. But I just put it in the crock pot, and I don't add any extra sugar, just put a little bit of water and lots of cinnamon. And so then I scooped up about half to put it into jars in the fridge just to have. But then I got this genius idea. I added a little bit extra water, and I have organic steel cut oats, and I just dumped a bunch in there and stirred it up and let it sit, work for 20 minutes. And it was amazing. Basically, I have applesauce oatmeal, and it's fabulous. So I've been having that every morning. I'm pretty much eating 100% from the garden right now, except for the milk that goes in my coffee. But if I could milk a zucchini and have my own milk, I would do that. But anyway, so that's what I've been up to. I hope that you're also having a great fall, and getting all the things done that you need to get done. And if you're behind on things or whatever, don't be too hard on yourself, or don't, like, nobody's perfect. Don't get too crazy about like what's on like the social media and stuff, because people definitely make their lives look really perfect, and of course I see the draw or whatever, but like, just be easy on yourself and enjoy gardening. Make sure you're enjoying it and enjoying, just all the things that you have. And then also, happy birthday to me for the last time on the video. I probably got to get going soon, I guess, but go do farm stuff. But anyways, thank you to those who spent my birthday with me on this video. I really appreciate it. I hope that all is doing well, and I will see everybody soon on that garlic video. For those who are joining late, if you haven't planted garlic yet, don't worry. If you already planted garlic, that's also fine. Most times garlic is planted mid-October, but garlic can also, or I've always planted last week of November or first week of December. And that includes last year where we had like, what was it, like 6 degrees or negative? No, I think it wasn't negative. It was like 6 degrees or something like that. The garlic did fine. So anyways, again, thank you all for spending my birthday with me and watching my video and listening to my random rant about everything and sharing the vegetables and all that stuff. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and happy gardening. Bye.